Alright, Star Wars. Let's do this. So, you know the drill, Star Wars is one of the coolest franchises ever. I've honestly never seen anything be so consistently good across the years with so much content coming out, and right now you may be thinking, oh, but BM, the sequels are so terrible. What are you talking about? And to that, my answer is that you may be right. I honestly have no idea because I haven't watched any of them and I probably never will. But you said that you were ranking. Alright, fuck you. I'm watching them, okay? Are you happy now? Here, let me watch this shitty ass movie so that... Alright, I just finished watching them. Why did I do this? Okay, so first of all, let me clarify that this is my opinion. If you have a different opinion, that is completely fine. If this somehow manages to piss you off, feel free to let me and everyone watching this know about it in the comments. Of course, some people may tell you to shut up because you're an insufferable piece of shit who can't stand when people have different opinions. Just ignore them, alright? They have no idea what they're talking about. You piece of shit!
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
The Last Jedi. Most of you may be surprised to see anything but Rise of Skywalker last. It's honestly not that much better, dude, trust me. I actually wasn't even sure if I should put Rise of Skywalker above this one, but I ended up going for this one as dead last because of the way in which they destroyed Luke as a character. Seriously, I have no idea who thought that portraying him as the biggest coward in the galaxy would be a good idea. Aside from this movie was still fucking terrible. Rose and this bitch, whatever the fuck she was called, may very well be the worst characters of all time. This fucker whose name I've also forgotten is also shit. He said it was kinda cool though. Why the fuck did Leia have a Superman moment? The only thing that I liked was that scene in which that bitch that I just called the worst character of all time dies. This isn't a joke, the scene is genuinely cool as fuck. It reminds me of that Oppenheimer scene, you know? And now I am become the... I just looked up the Last Jedi cool scene and it was the first result. I think that people will agree with me on that one.
I shitted in my pants. I am for real.
Rise of Skywalker. I told you it wasn't that much better. The resurrection of Palpatine is one of the laziest ideas that anyone could have ever had. And the fact that it isn't even explained is just straight up insulting. The closest thing that they do to an explanation is throwaway line.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Holy shit, this movie's so bad. It isn't only lazy, it literally destroys the whole Chosen in one arc. That was honestly one of the best things that Star Wars had, and they ruined it because they just couldn't think of anything better. This movie makes all of the worst decisions ever made in Star Wars. In a single movie. Again, I'll end this part of the list with the one thing that I liked, which was the ending. It was alright, even though it was a copy of Return of the Jedi. I could really say much more, but you probably already know everything about this fucking dumpster fire. So I'll just go on to the next part. The Force Awakens. Okay, we're officially in the decent terrain. Not exactly good yet, just decent. I think that the reason why this is the most loved movie out of the trilogy is because all of the new characters were at their best. Kylo Ren was imposing, Finn was an interesting concept and not a fucking joke. Rey was unironically cool and Poe didn't appear for like half of them. That was a joke. I like Poe. He was good in this movie. Of course, another Death Star just pissed me off. I know it's not a Death Star, but it's pretty much the same thing. Actually, I just realized that this movie is literally A New Hope all over again. Killing Han was like the worst plot decision ever. So far at least. I don't really think that there's anything else to say. It's just decent.
Man, I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear.
Rogue One. This is widely considered the best Disney Star Wars movie, and I honestly must disagree with that. I mean, it wasn't bad by any means, but it was just okay. The characters were okay. Some people like to say that they were memorable, but I absolutely disagree for half of them. Everyone liked Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor. K2SO is probably a top 3 or 4 droid, and Chirrut is literally iconic.
Are you kidding me? I'm blind!
He was so fucking cool. I honestly don't get how people say that these guys were forgettable. The rest of the characters absolutely were though. The plot, it was kinda boring. It had one good act, the rest was shit. but aside from that, a stunning movie. It really amazes me how beautiful some scenes look and how cool other scenes manage to look if that is what they need to be. I know that everyone says this, but dude, the Vader hallway scene is fucking amazing. Very surprising ending also. This was the first Star Wars movie that I've ever watched, and the ending caught me off guard. Actually, I'm kind of glad that this is the first Star Wars movie that I've ever watched, because I wouldn't have given less of a shit about it if it wasn't.
Okay, it's childish, can't be no homegirl, drop it like the NASDAQ. Move, white girl.
Han Solo. This right here is the actual best Disney Star Wars movie. It's miles above Rogue One, and unlike the sequels, it's harmless. It honestly surprised me how this movie flopped. I'm gonna be honest right here, the Han and Kira relationship was pretty bad, and this guy right here was a fucking awful character, but the rest was all good. Very cool to see how Chewie and Han met. Han is very off character, I must say. The fact that they tried to make him like honorable and all of that. Really, they shouldn't have done that. I mean, Lucas tried to do that with the Greedo scene, editing it, making it look like shit. Don't do that ever again, please. I still love this character though, and I really liked Lando also. The story was okay, not that interesting, but not that bad either. Definitely didn't care for whoever the fuck these people were, but overall, very fun and had a cool villain. Attack of the Clones. If you don't know why I put this movie here, you probably haven't watched it in a while, and you're probably just thinking about the good parts of this movie. I know exactly what you're thinking about. Count Dooku, Jango Fett, the origin of the clones, Yoda wielding a lightsaber for the first time, the chasing Coruscant. You're probably thinking right now, what could have possibly ruined? Yeah, Anakin kinda ruined the movie, especially considering the fact that Hayden Christensen's acting was kinda bad for this movie. I mean, he has that one scene that is fucking great in which he talks to Padme about committing mass murder, but aside from that scene, all of his acting isn't that good. It's honestly a shame because this movie could have been so much better if they cut down a little bit the corny moments and made the love between Padme and Anakin feel more real.
Oh, hello, papagena. Tu le bella con la papaya.
Return of the Jedi. I think that this movie is pretty divisive. I've seen people saying that this is the best Star Wars movie ever, and I've seen people saying that this movie is the worst from the original 6. Well, the first time that I watched this movie, I absolutely loved it because of the ending and because the Ewoks were funny. Then I realized that the Ewoks were literally minions and the whole movie was ruined. Don't get me wrong, this movie as a conclusion to the first 2 trilogies is the best ending that anything could ever have. And everything with Vader, Luke or Palpatine was a 10 out of 10, but anything aside from that was pretty much garbage. Especially the fact that they made another Death Star. Like, yeah, it was cool once, that doesn't mean that you should do it again, it's just lazy. A New Hope. You probably want to kill me, right? A New Hope outside of the top 3 feels weird. It even surprised me. Like, I was making this list in my head and A New Hope 4th felt wrong. And I am the guy making the list. But yeah, this movie is very hit or miss to me. First, let me start off with what I like about this movie. Without a doubt, the thing that I like the most is the... I don't even know how to call this. This type of scenes. The Binary Sunset is just an example. The whole movie is littered with this stuff. You have the Greedo and Han scene, Ben describing Mos Eisley to Luke.
Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
This is like my favorite dialogue in all of Star Wars pretty much. Luke and Ben entering the cantina. I guess that I would call them the accidentally brilliant scenes. I think that only this movie has this type of scenes. Maybe Luke making 3PO fly in The Return of the Jedi could also qualify. There's also probably a scene like this in Empire Strikes Back. Can't think of any right now though. But that is the thing. These are very scarce everywhere except for only in this movie. Maybe even the lightsaber duel with Ben and Vader qualifies as this type of scene. Actually, no, it doesn't. That duel was shit. It is one of the things that I dislike the most about this movie. But hold on for a second there. There are still some things that I haven't said that I like. The opening crawl, for example. By far the best one in the entire saga. Every time that I see Death Star in all caps, I get goosebumps.
MF Doom.
And speaking of which, the Death Star. Iconic as fuck. The first Death Star was the only good planet-destroying weapon ever. The rest are boring. Now for what I dislike, there's really only one thing that I haven't mentioned yet. Luke destroying the Death Star. I'm sorry, I just know that some people think that this is the best thing ever. It just never did anything to me. Don't get me wrong, the explosion is great. I just don't like the way in which it is destroyed.
Move this man!
I'm sorry for the hot take, but Phantom Menace is going third. Oh, but PM, the plot of this movie is so confusing. You're right. It took me some time to even understand what was going on, but once I did, holy shit, this movie is good. I just love how the story goes slow at the beginning and then starts picking up speed just to end up in the third/second best lightsaber duel ever. It could have been the best if it wasn't constantly interrupted with Anakin flying and Jar Jar doing stupid shit. I know that not everyone likes this movie, but I don't know, man, I really... Alright, I'll just say it, I'm a sucker for boring shit. Don't ask me why, but every time that I see that something is incredibly boring, I just eat that shit up for some reason. So, now that I'm guessing that you understand why I have this movie so high on the list, hopefully you don't cook me in the comments, if there even are any comments. In my own defense, I have to say that it isn't all boring. Like, come on, everyone likes the Duel of Fates. Everyone likes pod racing, everyone likes the fishes. There are some underrated scenes. I unironically think that this scene with Watto is the funniest Star Wars scene ever.
Credits will do fine.
No, they won't! What, do you think you're some kind of Jedi?
Qui-Gon is one of the best characters of the saga. You know that I'm right, you just don't want to admit it. Anakin was also cool. Yeah, the acting of his character wasn't that good, but for a kid his age, it was okay. It seriously pisses me off every time that I see some morbidly obese person pretending like they could have done any better. The only bad thing about it was Jar Jar.
Shut up!
And even with a character as bad as him, one of the funniest memes ever was created, so I can forgive his inclusion. Empire Strikes Back. The movie that saved Star Wars. I don't know how this movie goes from incredibly iconic moment to incredibly iconic moment without even catching a break. I like how it goes for that feeling of the protagonist being constantly on the run. Really makes the whole thing feel intense. Even from the first second of the movie in which Luke is about to die and barely survives. Well, the whole movie is like this, and it is amazing. That scene with the AT-ATs is incredible. So groundbreaking that the MCU would shamelessly steal it 36 years later. After this, the group gets separated, with Luke going to meet Yoda with R2, which causes one of the best fights in all of Star Wars. We also meet Lando, one of the coolest characters ever. I'm not gonna say every single good thing about this because I would be here forever if I did. So I'll just say two more things. First, Luke going to fight Vader, even knowing that he can't defeat him right now, is fucking great. Character defining moment. Second thing that I wanted to say, even though I think it goes without saying, is that I Am Your Father is by far the most iconic scene in all of cinema. And at number one, I got the Clone Wars movie. Yeah, the best piece of cinema ever created. I'm just kidding. Revenge of the Sith. I remember watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time with a few friends. I think that I already knew that I would give it a 10 out of 10 like 40 minutes before it even ended. This is the only Star Wars movie that I would give a perfect 10 to. The opening scene is brilliant, the death of Dooku was great.
Do it.
I think that every single line of this movie is a cultural phenomenon. Every single shot was also massive. There's literally nothing that this movie doesn't have. Grievous is also such a cool and imposing villain. I have no idea how he loses duels when he uses like 5 trillion lightsabers though. But he's still good. Obviously, Palpatine is amazing. Actually, scratch that. Every character was amazing, from Obi-Wan to Anakin to Palpatine to Padme. All of them were extremely important. You want to talk about scenes? You have fucking Order 66, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, Anakin becoming Vader. Really, a movie that doesn't fail at anything, especially with that duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan, which in my opinion is the best one ever. I talked about why I think that the Duel of the Fates isn't the best one. It's because it was being constantly interrupted, which is a problem for like 90% of the duels for some reason. This one doesn't have that problem. Yes, it does get interrupted every once in a while, but when it does, we see Yoda fighting Palpatine, which is also one of the best duels ever. There's nothing that I dislike about this movie. People mainly complain about absurdly minor things, and even these minor things that people complain about I find to be either decent or brilliant. Like some people complain about the way in which Padme died. I think that it's amazing, and by the way, you can literally die like that in real life, so most people are just straight up wrong when they criticize this. Grievous' death did feel kinda random, but it still caused this very cool visual of him exploding, so I can forgive it. And with that, my list is concluded. Well, feel free to leave your list if you want in the comments, so that this video gets a slight boost and catches 12 views instead of 6. See you next time.